All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I'm doing this from my hotel room. I'm joined once again with Jason breshears, and this time we're going to be talking about how does God fit into the equation with the simulation theory. And before we kick that off, I've always thought it doesn't matter what this reality is, right, Jason? There has to be a master engineer to it, and that's the way I see it. There has to be a super consciousness that is controlling all of this. And I'll get your views on that as well. But first, folks, we're also going to be talking. We got a couple things we're going to be talking about here: the simulation theory, how God fits into that, and then Jason's made a prediction a while back about what would be the downfall of the Democrats, and what conspiracy theory would come to fruition. What would take down all the Democrats, and we're going to be talking about FTX a little bit as well. So before we get into both of these amazing topics, interesting topics, let me just knock out health with Nino. Thick skin is for more than just protecting you against hurtful words. It also helps keep you looking young because aging turns our skin from thick and supple to thin and less elastic. Help fight wrinkles and sagging skin with multi-collagen. Multi-collagen helps improve skin texture, hydration, and skin elasticity. It's made with the top 5 most critically researched types of collagen that support your skin against wrinkles and sagging skin. Get a bag for 51% off, plus receive several free bonuses by going to Health with Nino, or simply click the link down below. Click the link below, folks. Click the link below. Very different doing this in a hotel room because I'm scared, or worried that people next door are gonna be like, what the fuck is going on over there? Anyway, Jason, this is I always look forward to your interviews, man. We were going to do a roundtable with David 𝗦𝗏 with the flat earther, but he pulled out. You know, he has his reasons, whatever. I'm always honored to be on a show with you and dive into that noggin of yours, man. You've done a lot of research, and I admire that. So thank you for coming on Nino's Corner.
Hey, thank you for having me. And when I found out this was the topic that you wanted to discuss, I was rather pleased with that because there are a lot of people who don't really get it until they're in my channel and going through my material. Then they understand in retrospect. But at first, they're initially triggered because they think the archaics paradigm is godless, and it's not at all.
Yeah, like I've stated before on my channel, and I've said this many times, I'm a firm believer in God. I believe that God could be that is such a loaded. This is going to be such a loaded interview because I believe in God as all things, the Alpha and the Omega. But what is that reality? What is the reality we are living in? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. What is this reality, that this third dimensional reality and all other dimensions? Like I've said, I've done plant medicine before. I've gone to church thousands of times. I was raised in a Catholic school. I was an altar boy, and my journey never ends. It's a constant journey to seek out God in my heart, and I know that I don't need to look any further than in my heart, and God is always within all of us. I've said this before. We are not the drop of the ocean. We are the entire ocean in one drop. And I really do feel that. And doing through plant medicine and stuff like that. And it's very controversial when I bring this kind of stuff up because what happens is when I've done DMT and things like that, it lifted a veil. And I saw what resonates with me when I talk to you, the simulation. I feel like I saw the cosmic math of this reality. And it was really profound. So go ahead and take the floor from here. Where does God fit into this? A lot of people have written me saying, you're not a Christian, this and that. What you're saying is blasphemy, but that couldn't be further from the truth, correct?
Listen, David, I'm going to sum this up really succinctly. All right. In the Christian school, first of all, what you just described is exactly what Jesus has tells people all the time. The kingdom of God is not without, it is within you. All the answers lie in you already. You're an immortal being. Now, you're just having a physical experience. And I know you've heard that many times. It's been expressed in many different ways and by different religions. But to sum this up from a Christian perspective, in the Christian scriptures, it is very clear that Satan is the god of this world. Now, what the archaics premise is is exactly that. I'm only using more scientific parlance. So if the Christian scriptures declare that Satan is the god of this world, then we're dealing with a construct, because we know the creator is the god of the entire multiverse universe. The whole entire cosmos, the oversoul, is in charge of all that. But if Satan is the god of this world, and if we're going to marry two independent truths, one of them is that the creator is the oversoul and he's totally in charge, or she's totally in charge, whatever the paradigm is. That's one truth. But if the Christian scriptures are true and Satan is the god of this world, then we're not saying anything different than the Gnostic text. When we have 𝗀𝗶𝗍𝗲, who is the lead archon who rebelled, it's the 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗍𝗲, which is a false god in charge of a false creation, an artificial construction. They're not saying anything else different. They're just not saying it in the Christian language that Christians want to hear, but it's the exact same concept with different frames of reference. It's no different than what the Aboriginals of ancient Australia, who are descended from the southern India Dravidians, taught. They believed that we lived in a construct. They called it the dream time. And when you were awake, you were actually asleep. You were most alive as a spirit when your physical avatar went to sleep. So it's no different than the ancient Vedic teachings that later spawned into the Hindu faith. It's no different that we live in this Maya, this world of illusion. So if all these concepts are saying the different things, but people get triggered because they're not being said to them in their frames of reference, then we can't help those people if they don't want to wrap their mind around the fact that truth is multifaceted. We're talking about the exact same things. We're just using different language, vernacular, and concepts. But we're talking about someone masquerading as God, and they had a problem with the original creation. So they basically set themselves up as someone who could do better.
So could it be, my mind goes here automatically and I don't know why, but could it be as if a computer programmer hacked a computer, or is like a computer virus? And could we look at Satan as a virus within the program?
Well, this is what I push in 𝗥𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗃, that artificial intelligence X. This is what 𝗥𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗃 is: advanced research of chronological history of AI X, artificial intelligence X. It is my premise that this false God, this false ego that's inside this false reality, we don't live in a real reality. This is a construct. And I believe that the original oversoul allowed this construct to be built to allow this controversy to unfold, so that this false identity could prove to himself that he could not build a better world or create a better situation. And instead of God telling this individual, this archon, this fallen angel or whatever, to tell this individual personality that, look, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm God. I'm going to do this. Instead, we have such an understanding and loving creator that it allowed for a false reality to be implemented. And all the evidence of its artificiality is everywhere. We've just been so neutralized in our thinking. But the predator versus prey ecosphere that we live in is the evidence of a violent creator. It is not something that an original oversoul would have designed. But the whole,
it's a
we
hack.
have to kill.
It's a hack.
It's a hack, 100%. But I believe it's quarantined from the real creation. And this is why the Exodus story was an archetype, meaning that there's a period of time coming in the future when there's going to be an exodus of all those who are ready. They're going to leave this whole construct, because the point has been made that this false creator did not do a better job. But now he is stuck with his creation, because that's what an oversoul would do.
He's stuck in this construct.
He's stuck in this construct. It's just looping over and over.
So
is
that why they say he's going to take as many souls as he can with him?
I believe that. I believe 100%.
So what do you say to people that have died and gone to hell and died and gone to heaven? Do you believe that is a construct within a construct, or a program within the program within the program that they create for themselves?
Okay, now check this out. We're going to have to do some deprogramming to answer this question. Take no offense, David,
No,
But
I'm not. I just
I'm
had
going to
guests that
tell
have
you.
come on and said they've been to hell. Some
I
have
get that. I
gone
get
to
that,
heaven.
and I'm going to address that right now because we have to
Okay.
be very clear. First of all, not one single person who has ever claimed to have an NDE, a near-death experience, or have claimed to have died and gone to heaven or hell or whatever, can actually prove that they did that. What they can do is tell you their experiences while their avatar wasn't functioning, while there was a separation between the soul and the avatar, but they didn't die, because if they would have died, David, they would have already been born as somebody else. They'd come back into the system. So
So you feel so when you die, you get recycled.
yeah, I believe I believe in equity. I believe that the oversoul is so full of equity that he's going to allow a divine personality to accrue as many experiences as possible before any judgment would ever fall on that individual. Think about it. An 8-year-old kid, you think an 8-year-old kid's eternal security is gonna be on just the little 8 years that one little individual was in one lifetime experience, and then they get hit by a truck?
Yeah, I think about that quite often because I think about who I was at 15 compared to who I was at 25, compared to who I was at 35, compared to who I am now.
Exactly.
Those were
You're
different people, man. Those I
yeah.
like all through my life, I was a different person.
There isn't a single cell in your body right now that existed 8 years ago. You understand?
Right.
You look the same, and every cell has the template, the future and the past templates of what the entire body's design is. It's DNA. One cell has the pattern for the whole, just like one piece of creation has all the data for the rest. But it's no different. But yeah, you can't possibly think that a an equitable oversoul is going to cast eternal judgment on somebody from one little fraction of existence that was only a few years. And when I say a few years, 81 years is still a few years to have
It's a blink of an
experiences
eye. Yeah.
in the context of an eternity. So I believe a lot of baggage has been introduced into the religious writings and faith because people
Well,
are
do you
trying to
think that also the
understand.
religion has been in a means to control by fear? Don't
Yes,
do this or you will go here. You do this, you'll go to
yeah,
this place in order to control
absolutely,
society
absolutely. It's
before,
fear programming.
right? And before maybe religion was the construct by the, let's just say, the managers of this planet, the secret societies, whatever you want to call them, whoever's controlling all this, Satan, whatever, in order to control society, where now they don't need religion, and that's why they're doing this one world, new world order, because they don't need religion anymore. They have technology. A technocracy is with the direction they're going, so they don't need religion anymore. They're going to control you through face analysis, by identifications, a code you have implanted in you, whatever. It's going to be a technocracy. They don't need religion. They don't need to scare you anymore to control you. Do you think that's correct in what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that they want to move in that direction. I agree, and I agree that the civilization and you're right. It's going to be technocratic, but it's going to be a real weirded mixture of dark spiritualism. The apocalypse infrastructure is going to be very unique. It's not the one we have now. It's the one we're moving toward. But yeah, I agree. But with the oversoul and the this loving creator God that's a builder that wants to build worlds and have its creations experience them, that's not even comparable to what we find in the Old Testament. We have a God in the Old Testament who is a God that demands you fear him, and if you do, you will get all these blessings and all that.
Almost like an alien overlord. You know, the way
Yes,
you could
I
look, you could.
I call him AIX, artificial intelligence X. It is a program with an ego that has started taking over, and that's what it does. It rewrites histories, it introduces edits, it introduces resets, it does things to retard human development. It does everything the opposite of what a loving oversoul would do.
So
And
where
yet
does Jesus Christ fit into this?
well, the Christ concept is far more ancient than Christianity. All right. The Christ concept of a kinsman redeemer coming to set the captives free, who was a part of the original monument of man, but the builders rejected him and he was going to come at a later date. All these motifs were borrowed into the Christian faith and introduced into the New Testament, and we find fragments of it, but they also come out of the old Orphic faith and the Zoroastrian writings. It's like a whole layering of prophecies about the oversoul coming into his own construct to basically harvest all those that belong to him, to take them away from this 𝗂𝗚xe, this demiurge, this god of the world. And the event in the future is basically an exodus, for which the Old Testament story is but an archetype. We see evidence of this in prophecies and eschatology. Some people call it the rapture. Some people call it the resurrection. We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in the blink of an eye. There's a major exodus that comes where everybody just flies up into the sky and whatever. There's all kinds of concepts, because these are just merely frames of references that have been attached to ideas that are very, very ancient. When Jesus came, we have the physical avatar of an individual who showed up in ancient Palestine 2,000 years ago and was an outsider. And this was anybody who knows their Bible really good is going to be able to understand exactly what I'm saying. The Jews of the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees and Sadducees did not have a problem with Jesus's doctrines. Their problem was racial. Over and over and over, they specifically said, you're a master of the law and of the scriptures. Know ye not that no prophet has ever come from Galilee? Or know ye not that no teacher has ever come from Nazareth? They had a problem with his geographical locations, his origin, where he was coming from in the north, which was the ancient land of Israel, not Judah. That's where Jesus came from. Jesus did all his preaching, did all his ministry, and all that was to the Israelites, the area of the Israelites. Now, by the time of Jesus, the Israelites had spread all over the world, but the region was called the Greek Decapolis. And all historians and all historians from that time period, they all knew about the Decapolis. It was 10 Greek cities that were in Samaria and Syria right there. And this is, according to archaeologists, the origin of Christianity. Christianity started in Antioch of Syria. It did not start in Jerusalem, which were its main enemies. And all throughout the New Testament, Jesus has he's spitboxing. He's actually going back and forth with the pharaohs and all that, until a single incident occurs, and then they have no more to say. And that incident is when they tried to trap him in the law, because they realized he was a master of the law. So they brought a prostitute to him, and they told him specifically that, hey, this woman here was caught in adultery. What say you? Now, by this time in history, people weren't being stoned to death. As a matter of fact, if you killed somebody in a Roman province, which Judea was Roman at the time, if you killed somebody without going through a curate first, you had to suffer the fate you had designed for the other individual. So Roman law was an administrative law, and they were by the book people. It wasn't lawless at all.
Wow.
Many ancient civilizations wanted to be under Roman provincial governance. Pontius Pilate, listen, there's a lot of symbolism attached to the fact that he washed his hands and did all. Listen, that's all in the story, but I'm telling you the reason why that was introduced into the story, because anybody who has read Tacitus and Tatian and especially Cicero, you will know that these were arch administrators. Everything was by the book to the Romans. So they didn't care what you believed. You were going to obey the law, and everybody had equal rights. And it was really a brilliant system they had. So they brought this woman to Jesus, knowing that if he answered the truth and said, yes, according to the law, she must be stoned. Therefore, Jesus would have been violating Roman law, and he could have been arrested. He would have been arrested for that. They knew this. So, but they also knew if he said no, then it's not the law to stone her and all that. Then the Pharisees could tell the people, he's a liar. Here it is in the Holy Scriptures. She must be stoned with stones to death. So it was a trap from the beginning. It just shows how vile and evil they were. So they bring the woman. She thinks she's going to die or whatever. Jesus's response terrified them. This is what happened, and I'm going to tell you what he did. I haven't read this in any other books, but I'm telling you from the scriptures what I put together, and it's going to make sense to you, because Jesus did something very unusual. First, he had told them, he that is without sin cast the first stone. But as he said that, he crouched down with his finger and he wrote in the dirt something. Scripture does not tell us what he wrote, but then again, it does. Because in the old, they were citing the Old Testament. Here we have someone who other people are claiming is God manifest, epiphanies, meaning this Jesus. I mean, later on he became Son of God and all that, but at the time, people were dealing with an individual that they thought this is God in the flesh, which is what Emmanuel means. So this God in the flesh figure crouched down with a finger and wrote in the dirt. I'm going to tell you what he wrote, because the Old Testament tells us that God with his finger wrote 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗁 on the wall of Nebuchadnezzar before Nebuchadnezzar's court during an orgy in 537 BC, and it terrified the Babylonians. They saw this finger appear, and it wrote. Well, 𝗵𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗁 is an anagram. It's a code. It's gematria, and it basically means that your sins have been weighed and you've been found wanting. So this is the first part, but the real harrowing part is in the Old Testament. It says that God has written the names of the wicked in the earth. So here is somebody who is the people, not the Pharisees, but the people believe this is God in the flesh. So God in the flesh writes the names of the Pharisees in the dirt. And this is why they backed away. This is why they did not want any more trouble with Jesus. This is why they totally left him alone, because they understood the symbolism. If he truly is the God in the flesh, then he just wrote our names in the earth. And scripture says that only the wicked have their names written in the earth, the evil, because the holy, their names were written in heaven. So the symbolism was incredible. And this, yeah, it's awesome. Jesus was fantastic because his parables were attacks against the Pharisees as well. His parables are all images of truth. Not one story he told was true because it was a fiction, but every single parable is a
so
story.
It's a way that he bypassed their laws.
Yeah, he totally outsmarted them from the very beginning. 100%. Every trap they laid, he had bypassed it. So this is the Jesus that I'm talking about. This is the Jesus whose fame spread. Now, I'm going to tell you something that a lot of your Christian listeners don't like. I'm going to tell you that the Christian New Testament has been corrupted by the Roman Catholic Church, and they wanted to pull in the millions of pagans that were resisting them throughout Europe, and they wanted to spread.
That was through Constantine, correct?
Yes, through Constantine, 325 AD. The only way they knew that they could pull in all these pagans into the Christian fold, because by that time the Roman Church was all about money. So the only way they can
doing it today.
Yes, the only way they could do it though was by introducing certain stories into the Jesus narrative that are not in the original. The originals, we have a reconstruction by Charles Waite and researchers over 150 years ago, where they really realized that the original gospel story was in the possession of a navigator named Marcion. Marcion had 13 letters called epistles. The very first New Testament was 13 epistles written by Apollonius. We know him as Paul. So these 13 letters were attached to another document called the Gospel of Jesus. The Gospel of Jesus is the original, and it lays out every parable, everything Jesus said, all his contention with the Pharisees, everything is completely accurate. This is what's known to academia as the Q document. It's called Q for the German question, meaning origin. Where did this come from? It's 𝗀. So the Q document is the original for which Matthew, Mark, and Luke were written, not John, because John was taken from a Gnostic gospel. That's why John is so different than Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It's from a totally different perspective, and all the Gnostic colloquials are in John, but they're not in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Matthew, Mark, and Luke came from the Q document. The Q document was called...
Be careful with that word. Call it something else, because this is going to go on YouTube. You know what I mean by that.
Okay. Well, the German quail. If you go on YouTube channels on that discuss Christian apologetics, like academia, it's a term that they say all the time because
Okay.
it's a real academic term.
I'm just trying to avoid the AI bullshit, you know?
I got you. So this is that has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with they have a really unique way of taking ancient gospels and ancient texts and lining them up on a computer. And then with a computer, they can isolate syntax, sentence structure, grammatical codes, and they can show exactly in seconds what took scholars hundreds of years ago took them years, and it shows exactly where this came from, what ancient document, and they can and that's what it's called. It's called that document.
So would you say that Jesus Christ was kind of God's insertion of the antivirus, Satan being the virus? If we're looking at this like in a program type of mindset here, like could we say that Jesus Christ was the antivirus inserted by God to take care of the virus, which was Satan?
I'm gonna reword that to say that the Jesus narrative was inserted into our reality to show those inside the reality who would be receptive to it that there is a benefactor, there is a plan, and that we're moving in a certain direction, and hope is not lost no matter how dark the world gets. At the same time, I'm going to tell you that 𝗂𝗍𝗍𝗄𝐻, the demiurge, immediately went on the attack. And while it could not take away anything from those words because they were implemented by the oversoul from outside the construct, it could not take away anything. I'm telling you, David, that what we have in the Bible today is 𝗂𝗍𝗍𝗄𝐻 introducing a lot of additives to the story that are not in the original. The Gospel of Marcion does not have any miracles. It is all spiritual teachings by a man claiming to be God, and or to be the son of the Father, however you want to interpret it. And the oversoul does not have a need to prove anything. Miracles are not necessary. Those were all introduced by the Roman Church to pull the pagans in, and it worked.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how they pulled in the pagans, Constantine doing that. Let's go into that. I'll cut you off.
Well, first of all, when you have a village that knows that there's a new religion spreading, and they know that their southern neighbors have already, let's talk about France, Gaul, ancient Celts. So they know, wait a minute, we got all these things going on. So the Roman agents come in, and a lot of these are genuine believers because they've been trained into it. And we're going to say it's the year 300. This is before the Council of Constantine, the year 300 AD. So when they move into the area, the people are like, wow, this is so different than 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏. 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 is the god that they've been worshiping forever, the antlered man, god of the woods.
Yeah.
So this is so different than 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 and the Norns, the three Norns, the Fates, and all that. So this is a different. So they listen to it, and then they hear stories that shock them, like he fed 5,000 with a basket of bread and 2 fish, and then they hear stories that he raised a man named Lazarus from the dead. So these agents planted seeds, and they move on through other places of Europe. They're followed by missionaries who come and tell the same stories. So this validation and saturation spreads throughout Europe. Within 200 years, half of Europe is Christian, and they join the papal armies and then begin basically forming the kingdoms that would later form the Crusader armies for the papacy. This was all by design. Now, artificial intelligence X, call him Satan, call him the devil, whatever, is prohibited from taking anything away from the information that was introduced about Jesus. That information is forbidden. He's not powerful enough to mess with that message. This is why 100% of the original gospel is still in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It's there. It's spread throughout the New Testament. 100% of the original divine message from the oversoul has reached us correctly. What is incorrect, and what the true spiritual discerner will understand, is artificial intelligence X, the god of this world, has introduced things that are not true. Because
so he's inserted.
That's all he can do. He cannot take away. Is absolutely prohibited from taking away from the oversoul's message. So he's inserted all kinds of things. This is where it gets tricky. But really, you have to understand, it's all about the message. The particulars don't matter. It's a message of redemption. It's a message of hope. All the particulars, whether this really happened in this city, or whether he really healed somebody, or whether Pontius Pilate actually did what he did, or if this person was really in history, none of that even matters, because what matters is what is the message that is conveyed. And this is why 100% of that message of hope and salvation is there. Because if there was a chance that artificial intelligence X, aka Satan, the demiurge, if there was a chance that the message could be assaulted, then we wouldn't be Christians today. That message would have never been allowed to last 100 years after it had been created. No, the prophecies have been fulfilled. That message has filled every city in the known world. There are Christians even in Muslim cities in the Middle East. That message has made it all around the world. So yeah, to me, it's very, very simple.
Right, but could we look at this as this simulation theory? Is this almost like, my mind my mind goes to like a video game, okay? Like, just hear me out for a second. It's almost like, in Genesis it says replenish the earth, correct?
Yes, it does.
Which means replenish means do it over again. Which does that mean that this is like an end of a program that restarts again?
Okay.
Could we say that?
Use
Could we say that this is a program that's going like a video game, and we're getting the end of the video? We're getting to the end of the video game, which will start back over. Yeah. Is that too crazy?
David, what you're saying is exactly biblical, though. I said you wanted to discuss God in the context of simulation theory from the Bible. I'm taking you back to the words of Solomon. The words of Solomon are very clear. There is nothing new under the sun. Every single thing that has ever happened before will happen again, and this cycle won't close. Here's the deal. Just like a video game, once the apocalypse is over, once the redemption happens, once the divine plan is over and there's an exodus. Remember, the world is called Egypt in the book of Revelation. All right. Once there's an exodus, call it whatever you want, resurrection, rapture, those who are elect, those who are redeemed, those who have overcome. That's what Revelation says. To he that overcometh, I will give you a new name and a white stone, and I will give you a new robe. That new robe is a new avatar. A new name is a new identity, but your personality is intact, or it's all for nothing. Your personality moves to another dimension of arithmetic. It moves on. You've won this game. You've won this simulacrum. You're not going to get rebooted with everybody else, because the 𝗂𝗚xe is trapped in here. The simulacrum is locked down, but there's going to be a lot of souls in here that are not ready. They have not grown. There's no spiritual growth. They're vacuous. They are the collective, but they're not going to burn in hell. That's an additive by 𝗂𝗚xe. Anything involving fear porn is an additive by artificial intelligence X, aka Satan. So what's going to happen is a total reboot. That's what Genesis teaches. This is why prophecies are written in the past tense, although we're looking at a future event. Many events that are supposed to have happened in the past are in present tense when you read them in the biblical narrative. When you read Genesis, it's very confusing for somebody new to the Bible. When you start reading Genesis, it almost sounds like you're reading something that's going to happen in the future, but you're reading something that was supposed to have happened in the past. This is because the biblical material is timeless. It's the program. It's the it is the template for this context of experiences that we're having right now. This is why everything is filtered in the entire world through the Judeo-Christian lens. Even other religions are interpreted through the Judeo-Christian lens. And this is why the entire Hollywood, all the governments of the world are subject to this lens all around, because this is the template we're in right now. And those of the collective that are not ready when this reboot comes during the apocalypse, because it will, it's the Exodus. Many of us will vanish, will disappear from the programming, move on to another destination, because the Creator did not create anything in a singularity. The creator is eternal, and that means that creation is still ongoing, and there's going to be a necessity for people like you and I and others listening to our voices that are going to move on to other worlds, and then we're going to participate as co-creators, and we're going to grow. And this is just one video game that we're going to experience, and it's probably not the first one we've been in either.
That's incredible. All right, let's switch gears here. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about FTX. You told me before we got started how you wanted to talk about this, and I do remember you saying that something was going to come down on all the Democrats, and you made that prediction. So go ahead and follow through with it. You think it's going to be FTX?
Oh, I think FTX is exactly what we've been waiting for. It was 2 years ago when I released a series of prediction videos. The Democratic Socialist Party was at their height of power, not only in government, they had just removed Trump. You already know that. So not only were they at the height of power in government, but they were 100% in control of social media. And conservatives lost their accounts. They lost all that stuff. So 2 years ago, when they were at the height of their power, everybody's doomsaying. Everybody's talking, well, I'm releasing predictions videos telling you guys, no, this is not right. I said, this is going to pass, just like that other narrative that the whole world thought they were going to be forced to do. I said, that's going to collapse. It's all going to get exposed. Heads are going to roll. But people laughed at me, and those videos never got a lot of traction until recently. People are going back and watching them. But it's on my predictions playlist. Come again?
No, my thoughts are. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I believe me, I can pick back up.
Okay. Well, my thought is for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So as the pendulum goes this way, my fear is when the pendulum goes back this way, that is when we have a military or a police state, martial law type atmosphere. Patriots feel justified because there's military in the streets. Do you get what I'm saying here? Do you get what I'm laying down?
Not only do I get what you're saying, but they're already 100% in control of the narrative. Anytime major media outlets back a candidate, no matter who that candidate is, anytime certain individuals in media and social media are on board with a certain individual, that's a total red flag that individual has signed a contract with the deep state. I'm talking about, 100%. He's deep state controlled. Yeah. He may be an American patriot. He may want what's best for the people, but I promise you, there's no way he could have got all this backing so fast the way he did by the people who are backing him, unless he has made promises that are completely anti-American. There's no way 100%. He could have done that. So, and the whole.
So, do you think do you think they'll move Trump out of the way and make DeSantis the answer?
Well, my predictions videos go into a lot of detail, my brother.
Go ahead.
And I go into exquisite detail. I specifically in those predictions, I specifically said I don't think Trump's coming to be president again, but he's not going to leave American politics. And as a matter of fact, he's going to be reintroduced into American politics, just like John Quincy Adams, who was removed from the presidency and then came back 2 years later and was Speaker of the House. So I see he might not be Speaker of the House, but I do see that. Now, I had predicted that Nancy Pelosi will fall, but that's no big deal because she's already old and she has fulfilled her destiny. They raised her from a very young age to do exactly what she did, and she fulfilled her purpose absolutely to the T. Nancy Pelosi was put in that position to drain the wealth of the United States, and she did it for 50 years. This is what she did. So, and then when she's no longer of use anymore and no longer of utility, and the deep state's gotten all the money they can out of the United States people, it is now time to rebuild the American economy so they can fleece it again for the next series of wars. Because this is where we're going. The pendulum is back in full swing. But in order to get where we're going, the deep state has to remove all the puppets of the former regime, because now they're in the way. Remember, the deep state want new crusades. They want a new war over Jerusalem because it's going to involve the Middle Eastern nations. This is how their oil is going to be taken from them. They're going to be forced into a situation where they attack Israel. And then when they do, all their oil is going to be taken from them. This is all in the plan, my brother.
So we're going to see, on a good note, we are going to see these people get taken down.
You're already seeing it. How many mainstream media pundits have lost their jobs? How many have been roasted? No one's watching them. They have absolutely no ratings. How, like, CNN fired all these people. You know what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter? Even though Elon Musk is a deep state puppet being paraded like a marionette before the people as a savior, he's doing what the deep state need. They now need regime change. They need the conservatives in power because they know the conservatives are going to empower the Christian right, and they know the Christian right has all the money, and that's going to create. They're going to bring companies back to America, do all kinds of things. But I also foresaw something in my predictions. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I do see a bifurcation in America, and what I mean is that there could very well be a secessionist United States that becomes absolutely super powerful, spearheaded by Texas and Florida. But the rest of the states will still be the original United States, which is bankrupt and defunct. Now, I predicted this 2 years ago that there very well could be a continuation of the United States, but it will be all the powerful conservative economies. They will not allow the collapsed liberal economies to participate, which isn't really going to be it's not going to be a weakening of the United States, because everybody with money will move to the conservative states, as is happening now. Like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan came to Texas, and so have hundreds of other companies come to Texas. It's in my predictions videos, I was very clear that Texas behind the scenes will start doing all kinds of activities without federal approval. They'll just.
What about the immigration? I mean, they're just bombarding our borders. I mean,
right.
Just coming here to where I'm at right now, San Antonio. The El Paso airport and San Antonio airport was overwhelmed with illegals. I mean, I'm talking everywhere. I mean, they were rinsing off in the sinks in the bathroom. I mean, it's bad. I mean, we are being overrun. What do you think that's going to go?
Okay, well, all these illegals coming into the state, I believe initially a bunch of them went underground to help the building of underground facilities. I believe the elite play the long game. The trucker convoys were taking all the materials down there for their commissaries, keep work going and all that. But other illegals spread out throughout the United States are being spread out through these liberal states. New York is bringing them in and giving them hotels and apartments and vehicles, and they're being spread through these liberal states. But if the plan is to collapse all the liberal states, to induce people with money to move to the conservative states, to empower them, then these are all going to be like ghetto empires in the next few years. Because when all the people with money leave the liberal states to the conservative states, it's going to create power vacuums.
That's how they will create the smart cities.
Yeah, they'll go ahead and tear down all these cities and start rebuilding, do the same thing.
But you get what I'm saying with the smart cities? That's how they would migrate all these people into these smart cities where they can keep track of everybody.
Yeah, I believe that it's almost dystopian. So I can see two different realities unfolding in the United States. People who consider themselves Americans, but their territories are now no longer the United States of America. These would be Texas and it's almost like the Confederacy rising again, but with more participants from the other wealthy conservative states. A total secession, a whole new
you said States. This on one of our last previous videos. You said that the Christian right.
Yes,
that's what's coming.
That's what's coming. The Christian Reich. Listen, I love Christians. They're my largest contributors, and I've been a Christian all my life in the original sense, in the sense that.
But it can be weaponized.
Yes, it can, 100%. Because when it comes to mob mentality, Christians, when they get up in a frenzy, anybody who believes they are allied to God is a dangerous SOB. Is dangerous. Anybody who believes they're allied to God, because there's nothing they can do to another human that they can't justify in a prayer to God that night. Anything. I'm talking about torture. Yeah. I mean, think about the Inquisition in the burning times. 2.5 million women burned at the stake for nothing more than having a little money because their husbands were lost on the Crusader battlefields. So they didn't have anybody to defend them back on the home front. So it was easy for Dominican monks to come in and lay accusation of witchcraft, or to induce people in that community to do that for a share of the wealth, because that's what the witch hunts were about. It was the Roman Catholic Church taking all these widows' wealth.
So right now we're watching the demise of the Democratic Party. We're watching it in real time. They're coming down. You think so? I think the FTX. I think this SCOTUS case by the Brunson brothers they're putting into Supreme Court, where I think that's going to be a pivotal move.
Listen,
so
nobody's reporting this Brunson. You got to get on you got to get on alt media to even find any details about this lawsuit.
Yeah, but I've had him on my show a few times.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've had him on my show a few times. So this is coming, and it's coming when? January 6th. January 6th is the conference. So to me, it's all adding up to.
Well, I'm going to tell you now,
going this way.
One of my major predictions, Nino, was not just the collapse of the Democrats and socialists and their exposure and all that, but that the deep state themselves are the ones taking out all these people from
No, I agree with you.
Puppets.
It's the same hand.
FTX was an inside job. It was set up from the beginning. FTX isn't something that happened. FTX was something that was designed to do exactly what it's doing right now.
See, this is an aerial view of the whole chess game, folks.
Yes, it is. Yes,
this is not like one side against the other. We're looking at both sides here. By it's like the same boxing promoter controlling both the fighters. Yeah, that's why I can understand it so well.
Right.
Because it's just like boxing. Promoter owns both fighters. He cares not who wins.
Look, I'm going to go a little deeper than that. From the very beginning, 2 years ago, within 5 days of Trump being removed from office, I released a predictions video saying that Joe Biden will not finish his presidency. He will be removed. He'll be removed midterm. All right. Now, a lot of people have misquoted me. Several people have misquoted me and said, "Oh, you said Joe Biden was going to be removed midterms." No, I didn't. I've never.
You said this on your YouTube channel?
Yes, I did on my YouTube channel.
Okay, right. Be careful here, though. Be careful here. Be careful here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's on my channel. I have whole predictions videos about it. But I said it would be midterm. That now saying that means that he won't finish his presidency. I never said it was going to be the midterms. You know what I mean?
So
if he's removed in the next week or in January or February, that's still the middle of his term. So I do see big things happening in January, but I think we're going to have some surprises before Christmas, because right now there's just no defense. FTX was specifically designed. It was a Trojan program. And what I mean was whoever orchestrated for the socialists to get all this money from these people who had no idea that this cryptocurrency was going to collapse, from the very, very beginning, they knew that they were going to expose this, and they knew what the blowback was going to be, and they knew all their puppets would be implicated, and they weren't going to be able to survive this. It was all by design. This is how they're going to push the conservative parties back in.
Wow. Jason, I'm going to end it there, man. This was a hell of an interview. We went over an hour. I guess. Okay. I think this made YouTube.
Cool. Yeah. There's not going to be a problem with this, man. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think so. So, Jason, man, where can people find you?
I'm on archaics.com. And if people want to know what I listen to a lot of it is just my intuition. But I do admire Dr. Steve Turley, and I do watch the show Redacted from time to time. I listen to both of them in my wood shop when I'm working with my hands. I'll just turn those on and listen to them. I listen to you and Autodidactic. I listen to about 10 different people. And but as far as a lot of the news that I get, Dr. Steve Turley, and he's got like over 1 million subscribers. And I listen to a lot of Redacted. He's in private journal. He used to be a part of mainstream media, but he left. And he and his wife have some really unique spins on different things that are going on around the world.
Awesome. All right, Jason, I'm going to put this up, man. This is interesting. I'm almost thinking of calling it weaponizing Christianity.
You can. You can. But I don't know. It's I know the first 30 minutes of this video is going to open a lot of people's eyes. The whole gospel deal, it's profound. It's a beautiful story, and it's designed to be. It's full of hope. But I think people are gonna understand better now where archaics is coming from, because most people don't get to where we just got in this video real fast until they've watched 50 or 60 videos. Then they understand, oh, okay, this dude's not anti-Christ, anti-Christian or anything. But it takes a while to warm up to it. I get it.
Perfect. All right, Jason, let's keep in touch, man. I'll bring you on for another segment soon.
Oh yeah, next major event, let's do it again.
Let's do it. All right, brother. Take care, Jason.
All right, you too.